I wanted to fly out of Hayes, but it was Hayes to Denver, Denver to Vegas, and it was like $475 a person.
You ready, Mike? The meeting of the Ellis County Commissioners will now come to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Donna, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Dean Hazelhorse.
Present.
Chair Butch Schleier.
Present.
Commissioner Destin Rock.
Present.
You have a quorum present.
Okay. Any changes to the order of business tonight?
I have done.
None.
We do have an executive session, Darren?
Yes, one.
Okay. We have no prior minutes. Consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through G.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Any issues from persons not on the order of business?
Looks like Lisa.
Good evening, Commissioners. Lisa Ree, County Appraiser. Thought I'd just give you a quick update on what's going on in our office. We are required by state law to send out valuation notices to real estate property owners by March 1st. Because of the issues in our office, we knew we're not going to be able to make that deadline, so we did request an extension from the State Property Valuation Department. I requested 30 days. They gave me 15 days. I am not optimistic that we will have them out by March 15th, but we will push to do that. But I anticipate asking for another 15 days to get those out by April 1st.
Okay. Lisa, are there other appraisers having the same issue? Or is it
There are a
pretty much-
few.
Yeah.
There are a few. Our issue is staffing level.
Absolutely.
So,
Is there any kind of penalty if you can't meet the deadline?
yes.
And what would that be?
Well, we are graded by the state on, this would be more of a procedural compliance. If we do not make the deadline that they're giving us, then they take away points. And if we're under a certain level of achieving our compliance, then we are considered out of compliance. And after 2 years, then the state can come in and take over.
At their expense?
Yes, but at our expense. Yeah, at our expense. So,
Okay. Anything
Right.
else?
no, that's it for now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Lisa.
Bill?
Good evening, Commissioners. Bill Ring, Public Works Director. The commission made the decision, which is, I agree with, is to check with you on rehiring of open positions. I had another employee turn his papers in Friday afternoon to take another job as a truck driver. So now I'm down 2 truck drivers and a mechanic. So I'm asking, per the conversation you all had, can I refill that position? Can I put it out?
You find it necessary to do that, don't you, Bill?
Yes, sir.
I know I don't have a problem with it.
I don't either.
No problem for me. Try and
Okay.
find somebody.
I just wanted to follow procedure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Any introduction of new employees? Okay. Northwest Kansas Juvenile Services, Peggy.
Good evening. Because Ellis County is the host county for Northwest Kansas Juvenile Services, which really means you're our fiscal agent, I wanted to let you know about a grant opportunity that's sent to Ellis County, which really means that it's available through Northwest Kansas Juvenile Services for the 15th, 17th, and 23rd judicial districts. The money is a savings from putting kids in and out of home placement through the Juvenile Justice Authority or the Kansas Department of Corrections Juvenile Services Division. there was a law change, which would be Senate Bill 367. And as part of that, we no longer get custody of kids. So there's several millions of dollars that were in savings based on that. In the legislation, they deemed it that that money cannot just roll back into the state budget. We're supposed to use that money for programming for kids that have justice involvement. So it has to be an evidence-based practice or an evidence-based program. This fiscal year, there was money that's actually going to be given out to communities if somebody writes a grant within the 15th, 17th, or 23rd Judicial District. Because you're a fiscal agent, you were provided with this information. So I didn't want you to be confused as to why you got this and what I was doing with it. The Kansas Department of Corrections actually did a public service announcement letting people know that this money was available and how to apply for it. And then when they applied for it or contacted me, I sent out this letter that I attached and let them know kind of what we are looking at. The amount that's available to the 3 judicial districts is $177,598.77. And what I had suggested to those applicants is, first of all, they absolutely have to make it a program that works with justice-involved youth. And justice-involved youth can really be kids that have been picked up for a crime. It can be as low level as that, meaning that they don't necessarily have to have gone through the judicial system, or it can be kids that are on probation with our probation services, or an immediate intervention program, which is like a diversion. So it can involve a lot of different kids. Just for your information, at any given time in Ellis County, we would probably have 25 to 30 kids on probation or being diverted from probation. And then we also have kids that are picked up for a crime that go through our juvenile intake and assessment program. And we have about 250 kids in any given year, and about 2/3 of those are from Ellis County. So we have a lot of justice-involved youth that a lot of programming we could really access some services. What I did was I kind of broke out my letter into what kind of needs I see in the judicial districts, and that's based on a screening tool that looks at risk and needs assessment with the kids that we're working with. The primary need that was pointed to was like a mentoring type program. And more specific, a mentoring type program for a juvenile offender population. And so I have some contacts with a few organizations that are thinking of writing a grant. We also have addiction treatment needs. There are not a lot of addiction providers for youth in the 3 judicial districts. We do have contracts with a few in Ellis County, but they're few and far between. And then also education. And the gap in education is primarily for those kids that are typically on the higher end of the spectrum of juvenile intensive supervised probation. And what has happened is a lot of these kids have not been going to school regularly, and then they might drop out and start working on a GED or going to an alternative school. The problem that we're having is that when they go to alternative school or working on their GED, a lot of them are so far behind in school that they really can't do this program without some help. And so we're having a lot of kids that just stop. And so that was one of the things also that I wanted addressed in this grant, or a possibility for this grant. And I think that's all. I asked the potential providers, to provide me with an application or a grant application by April 10th. And then what I do with that is we'll have a committee of my Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board, which Dustin is a member of. And in that committee, they will choose which applicants to fund based on having the availability of $177,598.77. Do you have any questions?
Do you anticipate all that money being used?
Yes. If we don't have enough, if people don't apply, I'm planning on trying to go through the Kansas Department of Corrections Juvenile Services Division. They have a Mentoring for Success program at the correctional facility, juvenile correctional facility. And so I would try to mirror something like that.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I don't, very well presented. Thank you, Peggy.
Excited to see the applicants.
Yeah.
Thanks, Peggy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item, Sheriff Office contracts. Scott Brown.
Good evening, Commissioners. Scott Brown, Ellis County Under Sheriff. Sheriff Harbin couldn't make it this evening, so he asked that I speak on his behalf. You guys had an opportunity to look at the addendum for the food service for our jail. I guess the bottom line is we've been asked to review things and look for cuts in ways that we can. We spoke with the food service, and they said that we could save about $10,400 a year, and so we thought that was a pretty good thing, so we were bringing it to you for your guys' consideration and signature. It also locks us in at that 2018 rate. In regards to the number of meals that we serve, they have a minimum of 64,000. Our average inmate rate right now is, for 2019 rather, was 71, so we're well over that 64,000. We don't see that we're going to dip below that anytime soon, unfortunately, and it'll average out through the year, so we should be able to maintain that and keep that rate locked in for till 2024.
Scott, do you know what the food contract, what the amount is?
The total for the year that we budget, I believe we budget about, well, it's actually, we had 150 in there. I think it runs us about 130 to 140 with the variance, because in regards to inmates, if we drop below 1669 inmates, it's $2.32 a plate versus 70 to 79, and it's $2.12. So there's some fluctuation in that cost. If granted, we would go ahead and reflect that in the sheriff's budget as a savings towards that 1%.
Sure.
So,
Any questions, Commissioners?
I know
Yes.
savings is good, Scott.
Yes, the only question I had was what does it cost? So that's good.
Do the inmates like the food service?
we don't have any complaints at all, and granted, they're going to be, they complain sometimes, but that's normal. In regards to the food and what they're provided, we don't have any issues with them. It would cost us a whole lot more to staff that up there if we did it ourselves, and so we have no intentions of trying to change services. We're pleased with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Scott.
Do I hear a motion?
I move to accept the contract for cafeteria service in the Ellis County Jail with Consolidated Correctional Food Service and allow the chair to sign.
Okay,
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, Northwest Kansas Planning and Development Commission bylaw changes. Darren.
Good evening, Commission. Darren Myers, Interim County Administrator. This is just a follow-up agenda item from about a month ago in regards to the Northwest Kansas Planning and Development Commission, the dues that were not paid in 2020. And just as a follow-up, and speaking with our county counselor, he was also looking for some guidance on what the commission may think of how those agenda or those bylaws could be updated, and if you actually did still want to proceed or if you wanted to hold off for a while. Just trying to get some direction on how you'd like to proceed.
Okay. Dustin, you had some comments, I think, previous about changes you'd like to see.
Yeah, the comments I had were, I think number one for me for this is that it's fair to our county and that it's not so high that we start talking about staffing our own grant writer. My initial thought process was to cap the amount that any of the counties would ever fund towards the organization at $25,000. I still don't know that this would be a budget item that we should keep this year. As everyone knows, we have reallocated the funds for that. So, but I think that is something that would at least be an olive branch from between us and the organization, and something that we consider in the next budget year.
Sure. I think
Now, my opinion, before we propose any changes, I think we should wait until the sales tax passes. If the sales tax don't pass and we propose changes they accepted, they would expect us to fulfill that obligation. And if the sales tax doesn't pass, I just don't see how we can budget for it and be fair to our own employees and departments.
I think we need to look at other options. If it doesn't pass,
Yeah.
possibly partner with the city of Hayes or someone else, and other counties as far as that goes, to hire our own grant writer.
So maybe we should just hold off until after the sales tax election and see where that goes.
That's my vote.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, that's what we'll do. Okay, fairground storm damage, Darren.
Just wanted to follow up with the commission in regards to what's all going on at the fairgrounds. As the commission is aware, last mid-August, we had the severe storm that came through with a lot of wind damage, not just to the fairgrounds, but property throughout the county. Since that time frame, we started to collect insurance checks after the insurance adjusters have come out, and we've received 3 checks now in the rough estimate of about $261,000. We've kind of had to push some efforts to get K-Camp and their large loss adjusters to come out to look at the different buildings. Since then, we've had a sit-down meeting, the clerk's office, myself, the fair board came, as well as K-Camp representative, as well as a member from Young and Associates, which is their large loss adjuster. Since then, we went out there, they sent out a different adjuster, we looked at the buildings, and we had identified about 7 more bids and buildings that needed to be adjusted. I could go down the list, but they're all in the packet. It almost seemed like every single building was damaged in one way or the other, from roof tin being peeled up on edges to vinyl siding being pelted from hail to light poles taking out fences to buildings being completely blown away, utility poles breaking off and landing on other buildings. So at this point, we've had about $440,000 in damages. We have an estimated probably about another $250,000 in damages that hasn't been adjusted yet. However, we're working with the adjuster. We're waiting on a couple more bids to come in. The adjusters are working with those companies. I didn't put those estimates down yet because all estimates are not in, and to be fair and equal, I couldn't publish one estimate without receiving the other ones in, but that's kind of where we're at now. As the commission may or may not be aware, there was some discussion several months ago in regards to depreciation. It was the county's understanding that the depreciated cost would not be reimbursed to the county. And at this point, that's about $64,000, but we've since confirmed with K-Camp that those depreciated costs will be refunded, but only after the projects are completed. So unfortunately, it's going to look between a $650,000 to $700,000 worth of damages. The good news, based on our insurance, is we are only going to be out about $500 for our deductible, which that alone kind of gave me a question as to why is the county paying such a low deductible? Usually when you look at insurance rates, the lower your deductible, the higher your premiums. However, with K-Camp and their policies, $500 is pretty much the standing deductible throughout the state. The bad news on the backside of it is, because I asked, is can we increase our deductible and saves on our premiums each year? K-Camp is already on top of that. I don't know if Dean's had any meetings in regards to this with them, but they're looking at it. Unfortunately, the deductibles will go up, but premiums will also be going up. So they just have not released those amounts yet. So that's something that we'll unfortunately have to budget for in 2021 once those rates get released in the summer months. But that was just an update on the fair and where we're at, how much damage we're looking at. Almost every single building is either getting a new roof, a whole new building, or being resided or re-tinned.
Are you anticipating the repairs will all be made this year?
A lot of them, we've had about 6 or 7 of the smaller projects done. within the last week to 2 weeks, most of the metal, like the shank and the underlying buildings, that's quite a bit of tin up there on the roof. The chicken barn, beef barn, the commercial building, all that tin has been ordered, as well as the shank and underlying buildings. We beat the March 1st is what they're estimating for price increases. So talked with one of the contractors today, and he's hoping within the next month or two he'll be able to come out and work on a lot of that.
Oh, great.
The fair board's actually using one of the buildings and some of their own funds that they've gathered. I believe on the chicken barn, it's an old pole barn, but they're a lot of rot and decay, so they're actually going to tear it down, use their own funds to build a new building, and kind of like what they've did the concession stand out there, and then use the money for the insurance, the same amount to put the roof on it.
Mhm.
So there won't be really any new improvements. It'll just look better with new tin on most of the buildings.
You know, when Midwest Energy is going to replace some final poles over by the grandstand?
They are out there, though they've been bringing the poles out here in the last week or so. They're trying to get everything out there so the electricians can put the new lights on. I can't remember how many lights there
Arena
were.
or for the Speedway?
A little bit of everything.
Okay.
There's
Like 2 left at the Speedway.
the Speedway, it's the far pole to the south of the grandstands. It's missing 2 or 3 lights. And those were included in the new bid to get those replaced and added.
And there's one pole right behind, like in the middle of the grandstands.
I think it was replaced.
Okay, because it was, unless it's done recently. Maybe they've done it now.
I believe it, if I remember right, just going off memory, there's a lot of stuff we looked at, but I believe right there on the north side of the press box on the back side of the grandstands, there's a new pole there.
Okay, they must have it done then.
But they got a lot of the new poles out there, and they're working on getting the lights mounted, because they're having to work on North Vine for the construction. They're getting ready to move up there to start moving utilities, so they're wanting to get ours done first.
Good.
Commissioner Rolfe, any questions or comments?
Just a couple questions. How has it been working with K-Camp?
We, so as Donna can attest to, I'm sure, getting the correct statement of loss amounts, we went back and forth. We were claiming that their amounts were not correct. They were overpaying, underpaying, not paying, and showing stuff in all variances of that. After our sit-down meeting, we actually showed them where they were wrong, got them corrected. Now they have basically corrected their forms. Since then, it's been better. They took immediate action on every issue and concern we had. They sent out an adjuster, and now they're kind of, part of it's in their court, getting some of the bids, working with the contractors to make sure they're fair and reasonable, as well as us trying to get more bids on the remaining projects. Get it sent off to them.
How many counties are members of K-Camp? Do you know offhand?
I believe about 60 to 70% of the state, 60, 70 counties are part of K-Camp.
See, and I think that's probably the matter of how the deductible is. With that minimal amount of clients, they can probably do variations pretty close to get our premiums right without the high deductible. But as you said, as everything gets more expensive, insurance is definitely one of those things. So thanks, Darren.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Road tour schedule, Darren.
This agenda item on here is just to pick a date with the commission that would work, so our Public Works Director could move forward with getting some plans put together for the road tour for 2020. I just threw 3 dates off my calendar that would work. I didn't bother Bill while he was on vacation last week to see if those dates would work for him or not, but I figured since we would all be here, we could try to set a date, and that way we can get a tour put together.
Well, fellow commissioners, my dates are pretty well open, so whatever you choose, I will accommodate.
The 22nd and the 30th are a little better for me because the 27th appears to be a Monday, and with a commission meeting and my work.
There won't be a commission meeting that week. I believe that's the 4th.
Last week, so I might be able
Monday.
to make that one work too, in the afternoon.
I believe last year we did it at 1:30 in the afternoon, so we could always fluctuate
I'd
that
imagine
time
I
too.
could make that work too then, yeah.
It was 1:30, wasn't it?
Correct, because we met with that architect first, going over some plans. Bill Ring, Public Works Director. The only conflict I would have on the 30th, and it would also, if we did the all-day, if we did late afternoon, it would be okay, is the Foster Grandparents Senior Companion annual meeting is that day, and you all are always invited. I know Donna normally comes. The sheriff will be there, I'll be there. So that would do it. The other 2 days are fine with me.
Okay. Dean, what's your schedule look like?
22nd, probably at Wednesday.
22nd? You okay with that, Dustin?
It looks like I'm open on that day. Shouldn't be a problem. What time you thinking? The 1:30 again?
I would like if we could do it long. I mean, saw how compressed our time frame was last year. In the past, we did 8:30 to lunch, and then we did another couple hours in the afternoon. I mean, there's a lot to look at. There's a lot that we could spend some time, considering alternatives, show you some of the other areas of the county. If not, I mean, a half a day. The other question is, do you want me to rent a van again? I mean, that was easier than, Dean, I think, that in the past where sometimes we're in 3 different pickup trucks. So you lose the consistency of conversation, and then you have to reconnect at every stopping point. We tried doing, at one of them, we did a conference call. That didn't work either. We tried to Bluetooth it.
Out in the county?
Yeah, it was every other word, so.
I would kind of like to see the longer schedule. I think last year it was just very compressed. So I think if we could get a couple more hours in, I think that would be good.
It would.
That would be fine, and we can stop and get a bite to eat and, discuss things and then decide what else, because in the past we had a full-blown, like a one-page agenda of all the different things, and there's a lot going on, and we can, kind of get through it. So why don't the administrator and I kind of work up a tentative schedule for y'all, and if we can sort of plan for the bulk of the day, I will go ahead and book a van for us. And as always, the media, you are invited. It is an open meeting. So if you would just let me know.
And that would be for the 22nd, correct?
22nd.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we go all day, the 22nd would need to be for me.
Yeah.
Monday I cannot do all day long, so.
22nd's a Wednesday.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the day I was thinking that'd be
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and we'll work that out over the next week or so and then get everything scheduled.
Okay, sounds good, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
Go.
County Administrator report, Darren.
I don't have anything.
Okay. County Commission reports, Commissioner Hazelhorst.
We had a KAC board meeting, just had a lot of discussion about what's going on in the legislative with different bills coming down the pike. Talked about everything from county appraisers to everything, really. We covered all sorts of bases to all the different bills moving through, so that was really good. I did go to an RPM Speedway meeting the other night, board meeting they had. I went and sat through that to hear their changes, and they got a lot of new and upcoming things for the new year. They got a lot of new sponsors on board, and they're going to have a lot of public interaction, live podcasts out at Old Chicago, and different things where the public's invited to come out. So they're going to have that scheduled, I believe, next week. So if they do, I will make sure you guys get that so you can see all the new things they're doing.
Great.
Kind of exciting times out there.
Do we have a current lease with them? As I recall, it was a 1-year lease last year, maybe?
Thought it was a 2-year lease.
It was a 2-year lease?
Review that, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Matt,
I'll look.
yeah, I thought it was a 2-year we signed last year.
I think
Yeah.
the fire and EMS leases were yearly, but that may be what we're thinking too.
And
I'll
they-
follow up on
And they did vote to approve having you guys on standby and everything again. All that happened also, so. And I won't be here next Monday. I'm going to attend the construction show.
Commissioner Ross.
The only thing for me is attended the DHDC Downtown Hayes Development Corporation annual meeting. As a member and past president of that board, I am excited for everybody to go take a look at their strategic plan for downtown Hayes. Some exciting new proposals and projects that I think will really help grow the community and grow Ellis County. So if anybody gets a chance and would like to look at that, that strategic plan is there, and our annual meeting was just a few weeks ago. So that's all for me.
Okay. I just want to mention that Darren and I were at the Chamber Luncheon on Friday to provide information about the sales tax. There were probably 60 people there, something like that. It was a large crowd, and feedback was very good. We got some real positive feedback from that, so I left having a good feeling about things. That's all I have. Executive session.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to that the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session under the following exception to the County Open Meetings Act pursuant to the attorney-client privileges exception. The subject to be discussed during executive session is county policy enforcement. Open session will resume at about 15 minutes. That's long enough, Bill? 15 for that? 15, yes. Persons to attend Board of County Commissioners, Mr. Bill Jeter and Darren Myers.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Off we go. That might be a no, that might be a no. Good deal.
No action, and the meeting is adjourned at 5:48.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Hey, Darren, I just got a deal from Glen Under. I'm sure this is the radio thing, maybe.